Hey guys, what's up? Dingo Crikey here with another commentary video. This time I'm going to be giving my thoughts on the Combiner Wars figures revealed at Botcon 2015. So just a few days ago we had the annual Botcon convention, and there was a lot of cool stuff for Combiner Wars revealed there. Some stuff we kind of knew about but we're just waiting to see, some stuff that I don't think anyone was really expecting, and being that's Combiner Wars, they seem to be able to produce a lot of it, so there were a lot of figures revealed. There were also Robots in Disguise figures revealed at this convention, but I'm not going to be covering them in this video, and I'm probably not going to dedicate a video to those. If you would like me to do a video on that, though, drop it off in the comment section below, and I might consider it. Right now, there just didn't seem to be that much exciting revealed, plus there wasn't nearly as much for Robots in Disguise. One more disclaimer that I think should be taken into account before seeing these images is before you get your hopes too high, Hasbro has pulled a new level of trickery on us fans. Not only are they giving the figures better color schemes in these pictures, photoshopping them with nice shading and all that, but now they're not even pictures of the figures in some cases. A lot of these images are just 3D renders. I'm not going to be specifying for each one whether it is a render or not, but keep that in mind that the actual figures might look quite different from what these renders would suggest. But without further ado, let's look at the figures. Decided to start off with all of the figures that aren't actually part of a combiner team, starting off with the Legends class figures with Buzzsaw. This is definitely an interesting one. We've seen releases of Buzzsaw throughout the years, not usually in a Legends class though, usually something a little bit smaller. Nothing really too different. I mean, this is one of these guys that has kind of been the same ever since G1, except with different alt modes. He's got the wings, something like a tail on the back. It does look like he's going to have little feet that can flip down. Hopefully that is the case. But I'm kind of liking the looks of this less than other Buzzsaws we've gotten in the past, mainly because he looks too blocky to be a bird, especially in the wings and even in the fin in the back. As far as the alternate modes go, he has two of them, and I don't really know what they're supposed to be. I'm guessing like a cell phone. This really reminds me of the Real Gear robots from the 2007 line, but for what it's supposed to be, it doesn't look too bad. Then the second alt mode, it doesn't really look like anything, but for what it is, it doesn't look too bad. Overall, it looks like this guy will be kind of a fun little toy, but nothing too great. Then we move on to Legends class Chop Shop. I think this guy looks much cooler. This guy's very reminiscent of his G1 counterpart, and we really haven't had a figure of Chop Shop in a while. It's not too big of a surprise since they're doing the other Insecticons, and we just seen him in Robots in Disguise, but still, this guy wasn't one of the main three Insecticons like Shrapnel, Bombshell, and Kickback, so it's cool that they're doing this guy too. As far as the figure goes, looks like he'll have some good articulation, good design overall, nothing too unique outside of the bug arms and legs sticking out. As does the color scheme, not something we see too often. Not that eye-catching, but it works for this guy, especially in his alternate mode. It looks like a steg beetle. The color scheme looks really good in this mode, gives him a very natural appearance. I even like how they gave him those red spots for the eyes. Them with the pinchers give him a very beetle-like appearance, and these things freak me out in real life, and this toy can kind of give those creepy vibes, so they definitely did a good job. Really cool looking Legends class figure. Then we have Pipes, or Blue and Magenta Huffer, because that's what he really looks like. My problem with this guy isn't the color scheme or the mold. The mold seems like a pretty good one. I do really like this color scheme. Magenta's a cool color. We don't get to see it on Transformers that often. Nice shade of blue. But he just doesn't look like Pipes. Pipes was supposed to have more of a wiry look to him. This guy's really, really bulky looking. So, I don't know what's going on with this character in the comics, but thinking back to his G1 character, this definitely isn't best representation. I mean, I'm not a G1er, but that's what Generations is supposed to do, so this does look like a cool figure, maybe not the best for Pipes. Vehicle mode, Wasn't crazy about it the first time around either, mainly because of the feet sticking out in the back. Other than that, it's like a mini Optimus, just mediocre looking. So he seems like he might be worth picking up, but I would like to see them do something better for pipes down the road. Then we have Shockwave. Man, I know I said Chop Shop looked good, but I think this guy blows him out of the water. This is like one of the coolest looking Shockwaves I have ever seen, at least from these early images. Very, very nice detailing, design, color scheme. Everything about this guy is really cool looking. I feel like Shockwave is one of those guys who they do a lot, but they don't really get him right. Dark of the Moon had a very alien look, which was cool, but it wasn't very Shockwave-ish. Fall of Cybertron was a really skinny, sleek look, also cool, but wasn't the best representation of Shockwave. This, on the other hand, looks fabulous. He's got kind of a bulky look, but nothing too over the top, nothing to make him look like a tough guy, you know, kind of strong in the torso and the legs, but shorter and skinnier in the arms. Really nice head sculpt. It also looks like he's going to have maybe some translucent parts in those brighter purple, so I'm really hoping for that. Vehicle mode also looks really cool. Unfortunately, it probably isn't a gun, but it looks pretty close to his G1 gun. I'm guessing it's some sort of Cybertronian ship. Definitely looks like the best out of these Legends class figures. Then we have what's probably the worst, Wreck-Ar. I never liked this mold in the first place. It just looked really awkward and lanky in the legs, but then had these short stubby arms and this stout little body. The color scheme doesn't help. Plus, this is Wreck-Ar. It does not really capture Wreck-Ar. The Generations or Reveal the Shield version did a much better job. Yeah, the only thing this guy's got going for him is the bike mode. It does look pretty cool. For the robot mode, the color scheme just doesn't do it, and it doesn't capture that kind of fun, silly character of Wreck-Ar. So I would think this guy's definitely a pass, unless you want to collect every Junkion figure ever released or something like that. Then we move to Leader Class with Skywarp. Ever since Thundercracker was revealed, we kind of knew this was coming. Still, I've got to say, the Jetfire mold looks way better in Thundercracker's color scheme, and even better in Skywarp's. The dark colors, along with the bigger build and even the wings in the back, give him a menacing, sort of shadowy look that you definitely didn't get with that original Jetfire. Unfortunately, the weapons look to be the same thing Thundercracker had. Would have liked some remolding there, but the color scheme on this guy is really, really nice looking. Same in jet mode. Looks really cool. Nothing else to really say, so let's move on to Starscream. This guy definitely doesn't have the same pros as Skywarp. It's a more burly mold, and I think it not only works better with the darker colors of Thundercracker and Skywarp, but with their characters a little bit more. This just doesn't look like Starscream to me. Aside from that, the white and the red, they just don't look good with it. They almost look silly or like some play school figure. Maybe it will look better in person, but at this point, it just doesn't look that good. And the crayon sort of looks like a joke. It doesn't look like it belongs with this figure. Now, I will say, he does look a lot better in jet mode. Robot mode, not really liking it. Then we have Voyager class Battle Core Optimus Prime. Now this guy doesn't seem to be assigned any team of combiners, though we've seen him combine to Sunstreaker and Ironhide in some earlier artwork, so that's how I'm going to kind of group Optimus and the upcoming guys as Battle Core combiners. Anyways, speaking of Battle Core Optimus, now this guy does look pretty cool in a white color scheme. Always a fan when they do these white Optimus sort of Ultra Magnus characters. This one looks really cool too. I like how he kind of has a muted color scheme with the white and gray, and just has those bits of gold that add some contrast, but nothing too heavy. Makes him look very consistent, give him a very serious leader-like presence, and I've got to say that while Optimus and even Motormaster didn't look so good in the images, then I liked them a little bit more in person. This guy's even looking good in the initial images. It must be the color scheme. I would think this guy's a definite buy. Vehicle mode, not the strongest, but it doesn't look too bad. Just I never liked how condensed and blocky this one looked. There's some really nice blocky looking vehicles, but I'm not a fan of this one. The next of these Battle Core guys we have is Deluxe Class Ironhide. No surprise that if Ironhide was going to be in the Combiner Wars line, he was going to get this mold. With that said, I'm not sure how it works for him. The vehicle mode looks great. Looks very much like Ironhide. It looks nice in that red color scheme. Robot mode, it doesn't really capture Ironhide for me, and it also looks a little bit weird in red. Maybe it's because I'm expecting kind of a tough guy, and he has those skinny little arms that might be throwing it off. Altogether, I've got to say he doesn't look too bad though, other than a little bit of an overdose of red. The black in the body is definitely cool, along with some of those silver paint apps throughout. It is disappointing to see that they didn't change the weapons at all, but that seems to be the theme with these new Combiner Wars figures. Ironhide definitely doesn't look as good as Off-Road. I think he looks a lot better than First Aid, and I'm not sure about in comparison to his Universe 2.0 counterpart, because that figure has some huge pros but also some massive cons, so I guess we'll have to see how this will line up. I guess it doesn't look too bad as Ironhide, it's just he looks so wimpy, and maybe I'm not used to seeing Ironhide as a combiner. Then we have Deluxe Class Mirage. It's definitely interesting to see Mirage again. I don't think this guy's had a major release since the 2006 Classics line, which, come to think of it, is almost 10 years ago. That's pretty weird. With saying that, there's no comparison for me. I like the Classics one a lot better than the looks of this one, but even though this guy is a repaint, was not originally intended to be Mirage, in some ways he looks more Mirage-ish than the Classics one. The Classics Mirage was a great figure, but he was very thin and wiry, and Mirage really wasn't that way in G1. Now this one's transformation's obviously different, but he has more of a G1 look, so if that's important to you, maybe you'll like this one more than the Classics counterpart. As far as the figure goes itself, I think it looks a lot better than Dragstrip. A really cool color scheme with the blue and the white, a little bit of red in there to add some nice contrast. The new head sculpt looks great. I'm really glad they did that for Mirage. Even the handpiece looks like it's going to actually go with his color scheme this time, so that's pretty cool. Vehicle mode also looks great. Really nice looking race car, and I feel like this is where he really captures Mirage. But the color scheme looks great on its own. This one's definitely a figure I would like to buy, and he might be worth something in the future because Mirage seems to have that habit, so maybe he'd be worth picking up a double of. Then we have Deluxe Class Prow, another guy who previously seen a Universe 2.0 release, which I think it did a really nice job of capturing his character. Nevertheless, this is a really cool looking figure. Color scheme looks fabulous on this mold. White and black is always a really cool combination, and I just like the patterning they did with him, especially on the chest area. Looks really nice, has a lot of contrast. Head sculpt looks cool. I'm definitely glad they gave him Streetwise's weapon instead of Dead Ends. Robot mode for this guy looks great. Maybe not the most Prowl-ish we've ever seen. You know, it doesn't look like the most accurate representation of his character, and probably is a way for Hasbro to reproduce this mold again, but still does look pretty cool. Car mode, not a huge fan of it. I think it works a lot better for Dead End. Just looks a little odd for Prowl, especially that rear section in the back is really killing it for me. But overall, this looks like it would be one definitely worth buying. Same case as with Prow, Sunstreaker was previously seen in the Universe 2.0 line. This doesn't look bad as Sunstreaker. Aside from that, the color scheme is really cool. Nice contrast between a bright yellow and then that dark black. I like this color of yellow much better than the kind he had in the Universe 2.0 toy. He also has a little bit of red in there to mix the colors up. And one of the things that I think is really unique about this guy is that silver seemed to be a specific emphasis with him, as he's the only one, at least as far as I can tell, who actually has silver on the handpiece. Maybe it will make him more valuable in the future. It definitely gives him a uniqueness amongst them, and it will be cool to see how that looks in combined form. The car mode almost looks better than the robot mode to me. I mean, this looks like it was made for Sunstreaker. Really cool looking, nice bright yellow. Overall shape of the car looks really cool too. Great Sunstreaker figure overall. Really liking the looks of this. And that finishes up the Battle Core Combiners and brings us to the Combaticons. Kind of predicted they would do these guys, though we did just have those Fall of Cybertron versions. If they want to do all of the Combiners like they said they wanted to, they'd have to do the Combaticons, of course, and those Fall of Cybertron versions weren't so great. As far as these ones, we start off with Blastoff. Doesn't seem like a great start. This guy just isn't capturing the vibe. He just looks like a repainted Quickslinger, and it would have been better if he would have looked like Firefly even, because at least he would have had the plate face. I don't know what was up with that. The colored scheme itself, though, isn't too bad. It does look a little awkward on this mold to me. The robot mode definitely looks stronger, whereas the vehicle mode's just a lot of that dark brownish gray color with a little bit of purple in there. But I would want to pick up this guy to complete the Combaticons. Next, we have Deluxe Class Brawl, and we finally have a new mold. Really cool to see, and this guy looks like a pretty unique one. For one, since he's a military con, they gave him a lot more detailing, which is really cool looking, gives him a unique appearance, and he doesn't have the flat chest that a lot of the other Combiner Wars figures have, so it's nice to see they did that. Head sculpt also looks really cool. Tank mode looks very simplistic, but there's nothing really wrong with it. The only problem I really have with this guy is that he's a little bit low on the paint apps end. Now, since he's a tank, you don't expect him to have a ton unless he's Armada Megatron or something, but maybe they could have thrown in a little bit more. Still, overall, really cool, and it's nice to see a new mold. Then we have Onslaught, who is obviously a repaint and remold of Hotspot, but you might not be able to tell it right away. They did a really nice job on this guy. Maybe not as good as Universe 2.0 Ultra Class Onslaught, but this is going to be a Voyager class figure, so it's going to be downscaled, but a million times better than that Fall of Cybertron one we got. Looking at the figure itself, though, really nice color scheme. Of course, the design already looks good. Great head sculpt, very characteristic of Onslaught, and I really like the bright red eye they gave him. Vehicle mode, really cool looking. I'm so glad they took Hotspot's design and made something unique out of it for Onslaught, and I'm definitely excited for this guy. Then we have Deluxe Class Swindle, who looks a lot like a remold of Rook, but a pretty good remold, another one you might not recognize right away. And robot mode, he looks very characteristic of Swindle to me. Nice head sculpt, great color scheme with sort of that dull tannish color, but then the purple thrown in there to really bring out a lot of contrast, especially in the eyes and on the body. Black looks really cool mixed in there too, and there's some very noticeable remolding in the lower arms as he doesn't have that same wrist weapon plug-in feature. He's actually able to hold a weapon, which is his own gun, and it looks really cool. I'm also liking the way the connector piece looks in his body. Almost unnoticeable, so really great looking in robot mode, probably one of the best ones of this Botcon reveal. In vehicle mode, really cool looking too, a little bit on the bland side, but it definitely is characteristic of Swindle. Then we have Vortex. I kind of have the same feelings that I have about Blastoff. This just looks really odd for Vortex. Obviously, he's a straight repaint of Alpha Bravo, no apparent remolding, same gun and everything. But as far as the colors go, he's just giving me a very dull vibe. He does have some contrast in there, but it just looks random. It doesn't really clash nicely with the other colors. His alternate mode does look a bit better, but it just isn't selling it for me. If I was going to pass on any of the Combaticons, it would definitely be this guy. But I wouldn't for the sake of Bruticus. And here we have him. Really nice looking. I don't know what they did different, but he looks like a huge step up from Defensor, who looked really blocky and punched in the body. This guy has a little bit more to him, and it looks really nice. I like how he has all of the weaponry in the back, makes him look combative, and overall his color scheme looks pretty good outside of some of the stuff Vortex adds to it. Other than Vortex, looks pretty consistent, sort of a muted color scheme, but there's variety in there, which is something we've always kind of seen with Bruticus. So, really cool combined form, maybe the best we've seen in the Combiner Wars so far. We'll have to see when we get better images of the figure, but right now I'm really liking the looks of this guy. Then we have the Sky Rain Combiners, beginning with Voyager class Skylynx, who was quite a surprise to see. I was not thinking they would do Skylynx, but he's one I've been waiting for a long time. Of course we kind of got one in Transformers Prime, but this looks like Skylynx. At least initially, very, very accurate to his G1 counterpart, despite the fact he's going to be a combiner. It looks like they did a really nice job here. He has the Dino Dragon head thing going on, and it looks like they got it across really well with the window area being the eyes, the mouth. The only thing I'm not liking there is the lower part of the neck looks kind of skinny, but I can live with that. You can't really see it from these images, but it does look like he's going to have a tail. That's pretty cool. Wings are a little bit stubby, but once again, not too big of a problem. Nice detailing, consistent color scheme works well with this character. Overall, whatever this guy's going to be like, it's nice to see we're finally getting a G1-ish looking Skylynx figure. Out mode, it's cool looking, but it's definitely a kibble former. He just has all of that on the bottom of his jet, and that's something we kind of just see with most Transformers. I mean, Revenge of the Fallen Starscream did prove to us that it doesn't have to be that way, but this is what we're going to get from now on. Man, I miss Revenge of the Fallen, though. Anyways, moving on to the Deluxe class figures. First, we have Deluxe class Hound. Hound's another one who had a Universe 2.0 figure. I own that figure, but I've got to admit, it's one of the few Transformers I own that I sincerely detest. Most Transformers that I get, even if I initially dislike them, but I just buy them anyways, I can get used to them. I just do not like that Universe 2.0 Hound figure. This one, on the other hand, looks like it makes up for that. For one, the color scheme looks really houndish, and it also looks very nice on this mold with all of that fine detailing in there. The color scheme works nicely with it. He does have a few other colors here and there, but nothing to add too much contrast. But it doesn't look bad for this guy. Outside of the color changes, he is the exact same thing as Swindle, so not a whole lot to say. The vehicle mode, though, looks really, really cool. No doubt about it, it looks like an army vehicle, and it's very characteristic of Hound. Next of the Sky Rain Combiners is Smokescreen. Not going to say too much about this guy. He's the 5th rendition of this mold, the 2nd of this Botcon reveal, but as far as the colors go, it looks like a nice color scheme for this mold. It works well in robot mode, and in vehicle mode I think it looks better than certain characters such as Prowl. So, it's not like this guy's one of the essential combiners. He's the 5th use of this mold, so you might not want to pick him up. For me, I like this mold a lot. This guy looks like he does it a nice job. I think he might be worth getting. So next we move on to Trailbreaker. Just had this guy in Generations, but here we're getting him again. Looks like he has the name Trailbreaker. No surprise this mold would be used for him. I kind of have some of the same problems that I have with Ironhide. He looks a little bit too skinny for Trailbreaker. The Generations version definitely looked better, but they did give him a nice head sculpt. The color scheme looks pretty cool on the mold. Not a whole lot of remolding beyond that, though. The vehicle mode looks really cool, though. Being just a black SUV, it looks cool, but when you add those little diagonal, rectangular, yellow, red, and orange stripes, it gives it a really cool vibe. But overall, I would say Trailbreaker looks like the weakest use of that mold. Probably not even as good as First Aid. So, next, the final individual I'm going to be discussing in this video, we have Wheeljack. We've had some nice wheeljacks in the past, and this looks like it's going to continue the trend. Now, I don't like him as much as Sunstreaker, and he'll probably have the flaws that this mold already has, but it does look like a pretty good fix for Wheeljack. Obviously, he has the trademark chest details, that's pretty cool. The design kind of works for him, he's got the head sculpt. All of that is pretty cool. Not a whole lot to say outside of that. Vehicle mode, I mean, it's Wheeljack, what else can I say? Looks pretty cool. Then we have the last figure here, that is these guys' combined form. A surprise one is Skyrain. This guy's definitely a different looking combiner. I'm not 100% sure how I feel about it, but I do think I'm liking this one overall. Now I know a lot of people don't like it. I could see some of those problems. The characters who form this seem a little bit random. Their color schemes are a little off-putting too. The cat head on top is obviously kind of a turn-off for a lot of people, but overall I do like the looks of this guy. One thing, the cat head's something unique. It also kind of helps to represent the original Skylinks. I also like the way the body is bigger in the chest, then gets thinner down in the waist area. Really cool, as opposed to some of the other Combiner Wars figures which are just kind of like a block. This guy actually has body structure, and that's really cool to see. As far as the color scheme, it could turn out being kind of random, but I think it has its own consistency. For one, Smokescreen and Wheeljack definitely look good on this body. Hound and Trailbreaker look a little random. They look kind of too dark. The rest of it sort of has its pastel look in a way. Those guys don't really mix in, so I guess we'll have to see. Overall though, I'm liking the looks of this combined form. Not as much as Bruticus, but I definitely like it better than some of the previous combiners we've seen. Anyways, that's my thoughts on all of these figures. You guys can leave yours in the comment section below. There's a lot of toys here to discuss, and there's a lot about them to talk about. I mean, obviously we're getting a ton of these guys, but a lot of them are repaints or just slight remolding, so I guess Hasbro's able to reproduce a lot more of them. They're also more simplistic, so even though we're getting a lot, many people might be getting sick out of the Combiner Wars line. But maybe you still like some of the more original stuff such as Skylinks. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below, along with any topic suggestions you might have. More Transformers news and commentary coming soon. Hope you stick around for that. As always, thanks for watching, and have a good one, guys.